Hello and welcome to the Life Science Success Podcast. My name is Don and I'm your host. I'm also the president and principal of 5280 Life Sciences. There are a couple of great resources that are out there on my website for people that are trying to scale their organization, and I'm trying to get people to take advantage of these. So if you would, please visit www.5280lifesciences and take a look at the OKR resource as well as the metrics resources that we have on the site. Today on the Life Science Success Podcast, my guest is Katherine Lynch. Katherine serves as Senior Vice President with Trammell Crow Company's Atlanta Business Unit. She's responsible for sourcing, shaping, and executing TCC's office and life science development in the Southeast. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me, Don.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Would you mind just telling the listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Katherine Lynch, and I'm born and raised here in Atlanta. I went to business school to get into real estate and wasn't quite sure which part of real estate I wanted to be in, but some interesting turn of events during business school in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, wow.
Long story there, but um, inspired me to want to be in the development side of real estate. And so I began my career here in Atlanta after I moved back in development and spent some time in brokerage and then made my way back to development. I think that time in brokerage really helped me gain some real first hand experience and exposure to the end user and really helped me understand better how the end user thinks and what they really need and how we can best serve them from a development standpoint.
Yeah, so and we're going to discuss, some important topics today around life sciences and real estate that, companies can leverage as well. So this is not my typical episode, but absolutely important nonetheless to understand. So before we get too far into this, can we talk a little bit more about Trammell Crow? I mentioned them in the beginning. What is their focus?
Well, Trammell Crow Company has been around for 70 years now, actually, and we're the largest real estate development firm in the U.S. With commercial development. We've got about 20 billion right now in the pipeline, and another 10 billion in 20 billion right now and under construction and in progress, and another 10 billion in the pipeline. So we've got about 16 business units around the country, and we do everything from industrial, office, multifamily, life sciences, medical office. I'm focused here in the Atlanta region, and we really focus on premier locations and premier assets. And we typically do not develop commodities, so we're always looking to raise the bar in a sense and do what we can to meet the needs and demands of the tenants.
And what sort of drew us together was this idea that I saw some information with regards to the development near Georgia Tech. Can you tell everybody just a little bit about what it is that you guys are working on there?
Yes. So it's actually really exciting, something new for Atlanta, something that's never been done before. And so, as a native Atlanta, someone who's specialized in office development, it's really a special opportunity for me personally. Um, we, as a company, have focused on medical office and life sciences development, biomanufacturing facilities for many, many years, and mostly on a kind of build to suit basis, and mostly in core life sciences hubs. We more about, I guess, about 5 or 6 years ago, started focusing on some of the more emerging markets, such as Chicago, Atlanta, Seattle, Houston, Dallas, Denver, and Atlanta has come up. About 3 or 4 years ago, we started thinking, gosh, can we do this in Atlanta? And is there demand here in Atlanta? And so we started looking into that, doing more research, finding out, what kind of science is being done here. Obviously, we have the CDC here in Atlanta. We're the capital of the Southeast. We have major research institutions like Emory and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, who spends 1.3 billion a year on research, which is very impressive when you look at around the country they're one of 20 universities that spend over $1 billion a year, and they're one of only two that don't have a medical school. Emory is one of the top NIH fundraisers as well. And so the research that's being done here is actually quite significant. And there's just never been the real estate investment, the infrastructure invested here in the Southeast in the past. So when we started digging in, we realized that a lot of the researchers and the scientists at these major institutions end up, once they discover something, they end up either licensing off that IP, or they're moving to that company and starting that company in a major hub like Boston or San Diego, where there happens to be the real estate infrastructure in place to be able to handle that kind of company. So so we ended up, once we figured out there is demand here, we decided, we need to go spec on this. We realized that there is a just-in-time nature of this industry where, you can't really predict exactly when you're going to discover something, right? So we understand that. We found investors that also understand that and that are willing to go forward on a speculative basis. So we started looking for sites and came across some land on Georgia Tech's campus. And apparently, they had started to try to do a life sciences district about 20 years ago. And there is one development there already on site, and it's full. They have also had a lot of success with innovation districts from a technology standpoint with Tech Square, which you may have heard of, that's in Midtown Atlanta. And that's been a huge success. And so this concept that we're doing now is called Science Square. It's essentially a bookend to Tech Square on the other side of Georgia Tech's campus. And they have been, they're very forward thinking. Dr. Cabrera, the president of Georgia Tech, is very focused on, economic development for the whole region and just really increasing the quality of life for the neighbors that abut their campus. And so this was bringing in private development and private capital to invest in a project like this is something that really fit well within their strategic goal. And for us to be able to find land that is connected to an anchor institution like Georgia Tech was definitely fit within our goal to develop speculative lab office product here in Atlanta.
And so in terms of the sort of space that you have as well, I mean, what will it look like whenever it's fully complete? Let me put it that way, because I started to
Yeah,
act as if it's done. It's not done, correct?
that's correct. So the district is about 18 acres. There are a few developments already completed there. And we are Trammell Crow is developing 16 acres in about 5 phases. So our first phase, which is under construction right now, consists of a 13-story, 364,000 square foot lab office building, as well as 280 residential units and ground floor retail as well. So this first development, it's funny when you say, what does it look like? I think it looks like it may look like an office building to some people. And I think what's really exciting is that it's anything but. It's the infrastructure, the core in place, all the MEP, all the HVAC that's required. It makes it a lab ready building. So all of the structure in place to handle sensitive equipment like microscopes and all the HVAC that you need to have clean room space, and even be able to do some biomanufacturing, pilot scale biomanufacturing in the building is possible. So day one, this building is lab ready. It may look like an office building, but don't be fooled. It's certainly a lab building. And then the 280 residential units, we're going to have a mix of mid-rise and high-rise. We'll have some affordable units there as well. And we're also doing a lot of infrastructure in this first phase. So a lot of roadworks, moving infrastructure around, parking facilities, really just trying to create the initial phase of this district. So to set us up for success in the future phases. And there's a pretty important component of this development that Georgia Tech is investing in, which is a pedestrian bridge that is connecting this district directly to campus. And so within a 5-minute walk, you'll be in the center of campus. 5-minute walk from there, you're in the center of Tech Square in Midtown. So right now, historically, this area has been really isolated from Georgia Tech's campus and Midtown, even though it's right next door, but isolated because of this rail line that exists. And so this investment that Georgia Tech is making of about 40, $50 million will really connect the university. It'll connect the whole community on the west side of Atlanta to Midtown Atlanta. So we're very excited about that. And Georgia Tech is very excited about that as well.
Yeah, I've seen the impact of some of these spaces as well on, companies that are licensed out of universities and then grow up. And it's so funny because I just re-interviewed the CEO of Obatala Sciences, and Trivia Fraser's her name. She actually took technology out of Tulane and then started out in a smaller building, sort of a smaller space that was there, and now they're actually headed to the coast for a lot bigger sort of space as well. And so it's the way that these companies oftentimes grow up is through these spaces. And it's exciting to hear that there's also living space there, because sometimes they we one of the other recent interviews that I did in New Orleans whenever I was there was to cover one of the smaller companies as well that had to keep stem cell samples live through COVID. And so whenever, everything shut down, essentially they had to figure out how they're going to get, back and forth to lab and make sure that their, stem cell samples are continually fed as well. And so, so critical. And then also having this, having Tulane, or excuse me, having Georgia Tech, equally invest in this pedestrian bridge sounds like an exciting endeavor, to just try and keep the people connected still to the campus as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Georgia Tech is very forward thinking in that they understand that faculty that they're hiring, the PhDs that are coming to work at Georgia Tech or study there and research there, they are more and more required, I think, through NIH funding, especially to show a path to commercialization. And so having this literal bridge and this literal path to commercialization, being able to get off campus and be in a commercial environment, is extremely attractive to the faculty and the talent that Georgia Tech is looking to hire. So I think it's very forward thinking of them. It's really, I think, exciting for all the people that are here in Atlanta and already doing research. We're seeing, we work with a group called Portal Innovations. That's a venture capital firm that also operates as an incubator, an accelerator. They're leasing a floor in our building, and they will be providing, bench lab space for those startups. And so they're constantly already talking to all these scientists at Emory and Georgia Tech and Georgia State and Kennesaw and Morehouse School of Medicine. And there's such excitement around this project, and there's a lot of researchers that are already considering, when can I set up my lab? We get a lot of calls actually for groups that need lab space right now in Atlanta, and I just, we can't build it fast enough. So we will be building also one floor of what we call graduator suites that are essentially speculative, plug and play, pre-built spaces for tenants that maybe are kind of beyond the phase of incubator, or they're growing out of incubator space and they need to have their own space, but they need it immediately. So we're going to go ahead and build out a floor of that during core and shell construction, so that will be open and ready to receive tenants in April of 2024.
Yeah, it's again, I've seen spaces that other people continue to build out, and it's in quite the journey to watch somebody go from early stage to through scale up and then actual drug production even. And watching these spaces continually get built is important, but at the same time, wouldn't it be great to be able to also, if you need something now, to be able to walk into something that's more ready made versus having to wait for things to be finished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that this development, will provide that pipeline of space. There'll be plenty of space. Hopefully, if the pre-built suites build up, fill up quickly, we could definitely consider building more of those. We actually are already speaking to over 500,000 square feet of prospective tenants that are interested in our space. So it will be definitely interesting to see how quickly we lease this up and how quickly we're moving on to phase two. We can do another 1.3 million square feet in this district of lab office space. So we're chomping at the bit, excited to get started designing that second phase, and as soon as we get some activity going here in the first phase.
Excellent. And so remind me again, so you said that there were 5 phases, I believe. When do you think when will the first phase be done? And then also when do you think all 5 phases will be done?
We're delivering the first phase in core and shell in March of 2024. So tenants can take occupancy as early as April of 2024. That's the schedule on right now. Georgia Tech would like to see all 5 phases built out within 10 years. I think that that is possible. There will be another residential phase as well after this first one. So there'll be a total of about 500 or 600 residential units, and then again a total of about 1.8 million square feet of lab office space. So the way we've phased out this district was very strategic, to be able to maintain as much flexibility as possible on those future phases. So if you look at our district map, you'll see that all the future phases are sort of clustered together, so that if there is a group that has some specific needs, wants to do more of a build to suit, we can accommodate that. Or if they want to set up a campus, we can do that as well. So there's a lot of flexibility on those future phases, and but we can also break them up and do additional speculative buildings as we go. So again, I think timeline wise, about 10 or 12 years, the whole district could be complete.
Amazing. And so just to remind me one more time, in terms of the benefits of being, on the, in the property itself.
Well, one of the things that we talk about a lot at Trammell Crow with these speculative developments is that scientists are people too. And when you think about a lot of existing lab space, at least here in Atlanta, a lot of it is, are in suburban locations, maybe in the basement of an existing building, an older building, or they've got a space where there's no windows and all the lights blocked out to protect the research that's going on. And we like to say that scientists are people too, and that they deserve to enjoy the amenities that other office tenants are enjoying, and enjoy the views as well. So we're excited about this project because we are offering all of the Class A best in class amenities that tenants are also getting around Midtown Atlanta, with conferencing facilities, formal all hands meeting spaces, with pre-function space and catering kitchens. We also have some informal meeting spaces, event space. So if you want to have networking events or bring your board in and entertain them, there's an outdoor amenity deck with amazing views over Midtown, as well as some ground floor retail, coffee shop, restaurant, and lots of different collaboration spaces throughout, as well as a fitness center and wellness center. So they'll enjoy all the amenities that they deserve for all the work they're doing. And additionally, we have view glass, which is electromagnetic glass for the exterior. And what this provides the scientists is they don't have to use blinds. The windows can tint automatically. They can block out all the UV light, so that their research is protected. They're still getting natural daylight, which is great for mental health and wellness. And they're also getting to enjoy all the views. And so you're also eliminating and avoiding a lot of the dust and pathogens that collect on blinds as well. So we're really excited about this environment that the scientists will have here in the lab space at Science Square.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and definitely sounds like a nice place to both work and live, in that local area as well. In terms of the just the futuristic elements of it, it also sounds like you've included a lot of, let's just call, like, futuristic technology as well. I know I've been in buildings before where they essentially light most of the building with natural light, which is pretty amazing. Also could get warm at times, but it's just amazing to have these technologies that can be deployed in these buildings as well.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of research into the view glass and this type of environment, and there's a lot of benefits in addition to the blocking the UV. There's also some heat protection as well. So we are targeting LEED Gold certification of this project as well as WELL certifications. So every aspect of the design is well thought through to create an environment that promotes wellness, and to be, environmentally friendly. We also have a full array of solar panels on top of the parking structure as well that provides shade, but also helps to offset some of the power requirements for the building as well.
Yeah, I mean, so important, especially now, to consider.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
somebody wanted more information about the space, or wanted to really understand, whether or not if they could bring their company there, what's the best way to get in contact with someone?
So we have a website, sciencesquareatlanta.com, and you can reach us that way. You can reach our leasing team at CBRE as well through that website. And you can also find us, I think, through the Trammell Crow company website, but I think the best place is to go to sciencesquareatlanta.com and contact us that way.
Excellent. So, Katherine, there are three questions that I like to ask every guest. What inspires you?
My daughter, she's 11 years old. She suffered a brain injury when she was born, and she is non-mobile and nonverbal. She has many complex medical issues, and she inspires me every single day to take advantage of the abilities that I do have, and the resources that I have. And so, yes, she inspires me every day.
Thank you for sharing that. And what concerns you?
Well, as a as a real estate developer, I'm always concerned about tenant demand. I'm concerned about interest rates and construction costs. I think we are starting to see some construction cost escalations, at least flattening out a little bit. So I think that's definitely positive. But those are the main things I'm concerned about on a professional level.
Yeah, it's I mean, it was surprising to me that, throughout COVID we saw, sort of the escalation of things, and then the just the area that I live in, I mean, housing prices soared. I mean, I couldn't
Mhm.
believe how much they escalated throughout, kind of the pandemic. And then, now the housing market here started to settle down as well. And so, I think people that, spend a lot for their homes, unfortunately, may wind up in a situation where they're overspent. But,
Mhm.
you know, I, it's sort of a tough situation right now, and definitely
Yeah.
something to be concerned about.
Yeah, and I mean, another little shameless plug for Science Square, but I think that we're one thing that we're really excited about is the community engagement and grant that we're providing as part of this development. So in our first phase, we're donating $500,000 to a community engagement grant that we're forming with Georgia Tech to invest in the local community on the west side. As I mentioned, this rail line has historically isolated these neighborhoods from Midtown and from Georgia Tech's campus. And so this district really, in addition to the physical bridge that Georgia Tech is building, we see this district, and Georgia Tech sees this district as something that's connecting all the community together. And so we're making investments in the neighbors there, in education and the schools there, and providing scholarships to technical colleges for neighbors here so that they can work in these labs in the future and expose a lot of these students and high school kids to careers in life sciences as well. So really excited about being able to give back in that way. And we recognize too that there are, definitely affordable housing needs in this area specifically. So we're excited to be able to provide that as well through our residential development.
Yeah, I mean, just the base education that so many people have is what winds up oftentimes leading them to this field, right? So there's normally, for a lot of people in life sciences anyway, it seems to be that there's a reason why they want to research the thing that they're researching. But in addition to that, there's things like STEM and other investments that have oftentimes happened that lead people onto this path that then, put them, in the area of creating, wonderful medicines and diagnostics and things that we have today. So
Mhm.
it's so important. My last question for you is what excites you?
Well, a few things, Don. I'm very excited about our team with Trammell Crow Company here in Atlanta professionally. We've got an amazing team, and it's been really just such a pleasure to be a part of building this team up, and I'm excited to see where we go from here. Also, with having a child that has a lot of complex medical issues and needs, it's just something I never imagined that that to see my professional and personal worlds collide, and to now be developing a lab office building where someday something could be discovered there in this project that could one day help either my daughter or somebody like her who comes after her. So that's incredibly inspiring to me, and it excites me every day to be able to work on a project like this.
That's excellent. Well, Katherine Lynch, thank you so much for coming on the Life Science Success Podcast and sharing everything that's happening around Georgia Tech with Trammell Crow. Uh, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks, Don.
Thanks a lot.